She is an amazing, gorgeous young woman who very bravely, because can I tell you, it's not easy to stand up here on a stage in front of people that you don't know if you're sharing something terribly personal. But she wants to tell you her story. We're going to get Mum Tanya along with her because it's a little bit scary. But please make her feel welcome, the beautiful Nikki Quinn.
I just want to start off by thanking everyone for being here tonight. It means the world so much to all of us who have been there and to anyone who's going to end up in one of those hospitals. Sport was always a big part of my life. I danced, surfed, played netball, softball, touch football, and was always outside running a muck with my younger brother Matt. Mum spent her weeks driving us around for training, and the weekends were jam-packed with games. Eventually, we had to pick just one sport, and I picked softball. In Year 6, I was selected to attend Westfield Sports High. I was so excited. I was finally one step closer to fulfilling my dream of playing for Australia. But I didn't enjoy myself very much. I was always unwell and not getting over injuries, but everyone thought I was just a typical teenager adjusting to high school. In Year 8, we went to Melbourne for a softball tournament. I wasn't well enough to play, but I wanted to watch my teammates. While we were there, I started to feel worse. I was so tired and weak, and I just wasn't eating properly. I couldn't understand what was happening to me. When we arrived home, we found out that one of my friends had glandular fever. Maybe that was what I had too. But the next day, in the car, on the way to school, I started gagging and I couldn't breathe properly. Mum took a detour to our GP, Dr. Houston. He said I looked anemic, but it was common in sporty kids. He ran some blood tests and told us to come back in the week. But at 6 o'clock the next morning, he called to speak to Mum. It isn't good, is it? No, he said, and I need to see you straight away. When we arrived at the doctor's surgery, the receptionist who had known us for years had tears in her eyes. Then we saw Dr. Houston, who also had tears in his eyes. I started to think I had done something wrong. Nikki, you have leukemia. It was a blood cancer, and we needed to go straight to the hospital and would be there for at least 2 weeks. Dr. Houston left the room, and I looked at Mum, and I saw the tears in her eyes, and I was petrified. Mum, am I going to die? She replied, no, Nick, but it'll be the toughest game of softball you will ever play. I believe these words saved my life. I knew from right there that I had a game plan and that I would be okay. We went home, and then Mum and Dad packed up and took me to the Children's Hospital at Westmead. After multiple blood tests and a bone marrow test, my diagnosis was confirmed: acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Treatment started right away, and after 2 weeks, we were released from the hospital to return daily for chemo, which included a lumbar puncture to stop the leukemia from spreading to my spinal fluid and brain. When we arrived for my next visit, I was so exhausted I couldn't walk. I remember pulling myself along the corridors using the handrails. During treatment that day, I started having seizures and was placed in a medically induced coma in the intensive care unit. Although I was back on the ward a few weeks later, I had another 6 seizures and was again placed in a medically induced coma. But this time, every organ but my heart had shut down. My left lung collapsed and the left side of my face had dropped. When I awoke, I had lost the ability to walk, eat, and do simple things like hold a pen. One of the reasons I learned to walk again was little Montana. She was 3 years old and also had leukemia and would come to the glass door and blow me kisses. Mum said to me, when you can walk again, you won't have to wait for Montana, you can walk to her. It wasn't too long after that I took my first steps. During the long process of relearning how to eat, I started licking Jatz biscuits to get my taste buds going again. I then started to nibble half a Smartie, and to this day, I cannot eat half a Smartie. I feel so full that for the rest of that day. For 3 months, all we saw were the 4 walls of my hospital room. My whole treatment plan had changed as my body had such adverse reactions to the chemo, so I would now need cranial and spinal radiation. I missed most of years 8 and year 9 of school, but my principal and teachers and school friends were incredibly supportive. My softball coach delivered letters from my teammates every week. When I eventually did return to year 12, I did it over 2 years, and I completed my high school certificate in 2009, and I also captained our softball team. Both were massive accomplishments for me. On the 8th of May 2006, 2 years after my diagnosis, I was officially in remission, but the battle was far from over. A bone density showed that I had a vascular necrosis or dead bone, and I was given a bone graft from my hip to my patella. I also have osteoporosis and nerve damage in my feet, and a lifelong chronic pain disorder called fibromyalgia. I have post-traumatic stress and survivor's guilt. I even had a major infection 2 years ago that landed me back in the intensive care unit for 4 days, and I need strong painkillers just to function every day. The bond I formed with other patients during my time in hospital was so strong, it's so hard to describe. You become like a family. 8 of my special friends, including little Montana, who fought beside me, unfortunately lost their battle. To this day, I have trouble grasping why this happened. Why, when they fought as hard as I did. Every one of their passings shattered me, but the connection I still have with their families brings me so much comfort. And I'm honoured to have Keegan's mum and sister with me here tonight. I promised Keegan and every one of my special friends that I would always fight for my angels and do whatever it takes to help other kids and families just like us. I'm now studying to become a paediatric oncology nurse, and university is tough. I'm in constant pain, and my short-term memory has been really affected by treatment. I'm unable to work, which makes me feel like a financial burden on my family, but I feel very lucky to be surrounded by them tonight, especially my mum, my brother Matt, and my boyfriend Jade, who literally pick me up at times when it all gets too much. Childhood cancer survivors like me may look okay on the outside, but our insides are ruined, which is why I'm stoked to have the chance to share my story and help the Children's Cancer Institute brighten the lives and the future for not only other children but their families as well. New treatments are vital, not only for those currently fighting, but for those just like me who survive. I believe that's why I'm here today. Thank you.